Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Fuego here.
And we're here to talk Mayhem.
Mayhem!
That's right, it's another in yet a long list of movies that Fuego and I are rushing to catch up on the past couple of weeks for our Best of 2017 live stream this December 31st on Sunday. So, this is the one that is starring none other than Steven Yeun and...
Samara Weaving.
I knew you'd know the name.
Yes, between this and The Babysitter, I'm like loving this chick. She is like the quirkier Margot Robbie, in my opinion. A little zanier, a little edgier. Yeah, I dig her.
Well, it's
also
only because
Australian.
she's not quite as huge just yet.
Yeah.
She could easily start landing those Victorian roles and things like that Margot Robbie's starting to get.
I like her in these quirky, zany roles, though, between this and The Babysitter, man. I mean, yeah, she was one of the highlights of this, but, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, she absolutely was, and she's gorgeous to look at, but she's got those crazy big eyes and stuff. So.
They're definitely crazy eyes, that's for sure.
Yeah, but she's super fun to watch, and what was a little interesting but kind of weird was that her character seemed eerily similar to the babysitter in this one.
In some ways, the fact that she was all quirky and hip and like
quirky and hip and references
and references.
Yeah, exactly. She likes old movies and stuff. Like she's obviously way too
older.
young to like a lot of the stuff that she was saying she liked. But
she's like 24. There's some girls out there like that.
I know, and that's what I'm wondering because she played the same sort of girl in both movies that liked the same sort of quirky, period-specific stuff.
Yeah, there's one little exchange in particular halfway through the movie that, while it was cool, it felt a little out of place to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll talk about this like we normally do. We'll give our overall thoughts, talk about the story, the acting, the effects, all that good stuff. And it must be said that right off the bat,
you can't help but do it.
Yeah, this movie is fighting an uphill battle via comparison to the Belko Experiment, which also came out this year, which we also
early
reviewed.
In the year, though.
Yeah, very early in the year, with a few more name actors. Although Steven Yeun's pretty name at this point.
Yeah, it was mostly like bit actors in that one, though. And I mean, Glenn from Walking Dead, Steven, he's building a career outside of the show since everybody knows, spoiler, he's no longer there, but he's doing voice acting and he's finding other roles, which I think is good and cool, because he deserves it. He's talented enough, and he does carry the film pretty well, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that, though. My overall thoughts are that while the movie was entertaining, I enjoyed watching our two leads for sure.
Yeah.
I much more enjoyed watching them than I enjoyed watching the Belko Experiment. Ultimately, while it didn't feel as mean-spirited, like Fuego said after the movie, it didn't feel as mean-spirited as Belko Experiment, it still felt just as superfluous. It just felt like it didn't really matter. I guess it mattered in the lives of these two people and the lives or deaths of everyone in the office that perished.
I still think you felt worse about the people getting killed in Belko than you did in this one, hence the mean-spirited aspect. The people who got in this, it felt a little more justified.
True.
True.
You felt a little better about it.
Yeah, and that's where this, ultimately for me, I felt was a little bit more lighthearted, whereas the comedy in Belko was more like dark comedy.
Gallows humor.
Yeah, exactly. This was more just like, it's zany gore, It's like gory for the sake of being gory. It didn't upset you as much, because really, whereas in Belko, people got killed that you liked. In this one, nobody really got killed that you liked except for maybe one character, but even that was kind of early on. So.
Yeah.
But the similarities are everywhere, man. So,
they really are.
You can't help but make them. So.
Well, let's talk about the story. So the story is basically this office building that Steven Yeun works at gets infected with this virus that is out in the world. However, it has been sort of under control. So this building gets infected, and they are put under quarantine for 8 hours. And right up front, you're told that they have already pumped a cure into the building, and everything's going to be okay in 8 hours. So it's kind of an interesting setup because it's not like an unknowable situation. It's not like you don't know what's going to happen in the end. Ultimately, all of these people right up front know that everything's going to end. However, they also know that this particular infection leads to basically, if any of you are familiar with Garth Ennis's Crossed,
yes,
it is
very
essentially just people going insane. Their id takes over, and whether it be wanting to fight or the other F or whatever, they do so, and
although
and
some characters, interestingly enough, have more self-control than others, which is the
True.
one thing that they kind of explained it, but not completely. I mean, maybe it just depends on how temperamental that person is in the first place.
Yeah,
and so,
it depends on the kind of mindset that they have going into it all. I'm sure, like, or the kind of mindset they have as a person. Like that one lady, the black girl, the black lady that was sort of in between, in between Steven Yeun and the higher ups.
Yeah.
She obviously had her stuff figured out as a person, while a callous person, she had her stuff together, and so that's why she was less affected than others.
Yeah.
So I think it has to do with personality that plays into the virus. But
yeah, I think so too.
but yeah, so he basically, Steven Yeun rather, is one of the infected. Everyone in the building is infected.
Every single person.
There's no, immune people.
That was at least one different approach that I thought was interesting, because you kind of thought maybe from the trailers and stuff, you're like, oh, it's him and this girl and they're fighting against all the infected people. No, everybody's infected.
Everybody's infected.
And that's not really spoilerish. You find out very early on that the whole building's got it. So.
No, and what's kind of what I thought was interesting about the setup was, in spite of the fact that everyone knows everything's going to end in 8 hours, the reason it still devolves is not necessarily just because of the violence, but it's also because this virus has already produced a legal case in which a man infected with the virus that killed someone in a very crazy, insane fashion.
It's in the intro.
It's in the intro of the movie. He was exonerated and let off because he was cured and deemed by the court to not be responsible for his actions when infected.
It was like a temporary insanity. Kind of plea, yeah.
Exactly, and so that's the thing. Everyone inside this building knows that case is a precedent because it's a building full of lawyers, and so they essentially know that they can get away with whatever they want. So not only is their id taking over, but they also know that whatever they do, they're not going to be held accountable for.
It's almost like a free turn, or
essentially it's Belko experiment mixed with the Purge.
Yeah. To some degree,
right?
Absolutely.
You get 8 hours to do whatever you want. You're going to be exonerated.
Infection type aspect,
right?
But,
yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking in the middle of it. Not to cut you off. I know people hate when I do that. But still, it was very similar. It had aspects of both, because there was even there was a ticking clock. Literally at times they had a ticking clock pop up on the screen. Yeah. So they knew that they were running out of time to get things done, and so that all plays a factor. So it's at least a more complicated story than Belko Experiment, which just everyone has an explosive in their neck, and they need to either kill each other or the big bad is going to do it for them.
Yep.
That's as complicated as it got. This one, it involves people's actual personal lives.
Yeah.
The babysitter, whose real name
Samara Weaver.
Right. She actually has a reason to be there, and
yeah, she pops up early on, and she has a little. It's a negative little interaction with Steven's character, and then you think she's gone and done with. But if you've seen all the promotional material where she's going around with the sunglasses and the nail gun, she's gonna factor prominently, which she does. They kind of, once the madness ensues, they team up, and there's, I don't know if we should really spoil it or not. It's just basically Ewan's character he's got a bone to pick with the higher ups, man, and he is adamant about doing it, and it almost turns into it at that point like just going level to level and trying to figure out how to get access to this higher up and so on. And story wise, I enjoyed the fact that just like you said, the fact that it had kind of a lighter tone at times than Belko did. James Gunn wrote the Belko script, and it did feel very just. Well, you used the term mean-spirited, and it really had that vibe a lot of times, and you can't help but compare these films, but I enjoyed the tone in some ways better in this movie. I had more fun with this movie than I did with Belko, I mean, especially once it got ramped up in the latter half and you started getting that bumping, synthy, 80s bit soundtrack going on. We can talk about that in the music, but yeah, as a whole, story-wise, I was entertained, and this is probably a good segue into the acting, because I loved the chemistry between the two leads. I thought they were great.
Although something that happened was such a foregone conclusion from the very beginning. I was
we both called it when we saw it, and we were just like, oh yeah, okay.
That's going to happen. Oh, look, it's happening. You know.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they were both excellent and fun to watch. They were the most fun things to watch.
Yeah.
The sort of big bad, or the guy at the top of the tower, which now that I was thinking about it, actually is very reminiscent of both the Raid Redemption and Dread. Yeah. Where they have to make their way to the top, you know what I mean, and get to the source of the evil at the top of the building.
Yeah.
So he was okay too, but they really brought it home with, and she, you know, while she I thought was a bit more, they played her a little too crazy at times, where she was delighting in a lot of the carnage.
Oh yeah, but
which I felt
maybe
was
just the virus infecting her.
Well, yeah, but it also. It throws it off a little bit when he's not quite doing it, and she's supposed to be like, you know, the pseudo, I guess, interest of the movie, and so it was a little throwy-offy to me, but not so much that it ruined it.
Yeah, well, she was in a state of desperation from the very beginning of the movie because of the story element with her and the foreclosure and all that other stuff, and she starts smoking a cigarette like right there in the office and stuff. And so, I mean, you could tell she was on edge. So maybe if that's your mental mind state when you encounter this virus, you're gonna just be more like like silly, crazy, you know, nutty. It was in this role more so, I thought, than even in The Babysitter, where I saw like the Harley Quinn crazy comparisons, you know, and stuff. And they're both beautiful blonde Australian women in their early 20s who are really trying to just have that little bit of zaniness
they look
and
so
stuff.
Similar, dude.
They really do.
Like, they could play either sisters or
sister,
or like if it was, how close are they? Got to be close in age, right?
Yeah, I know. Whedon's 24. I think Robbie's like 26, 27, maybe something like that. So they're not.
Wow, she seems so much older. Like in her early 30s for some reason. I don't know why. I've never been good at telling ages, but nonetheless. This movie was pretty good as far as the acting goes. Everyone else are kind of bit players. Steven Yeun has like a close friend. He was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was amused by like not just the antagonist up on the very top, you know, the main boss man towers, but also the woman that he had butted heads with, you know.
The one I talked about earlier.
Exactly, Kara, something like that. And they shared accounts before, and he's kind of getting thrown under the bus for something without getting, you know, too into detail. And some of their exchanges, you know, daddy blah 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 this, mommy blah 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 this, and the elevator, that shit was funny. And so, yeah, I mean, once again, you know where the focus is, and it's on our two leads. And everybody else did a serviceable enough job, but there was no particular supporting character that was supremely memorable. So, you know,
I agree.
Yeah, that's about the extent of it.
Yeah. So let's move into the effects.
Bloody
and it was pretty bloody. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the violence actually wasn't explicit. It was off camera, but just barely off camera. So there was blood spurts and stuff like that. But some stuff we saw, but it was there was a lot of blood, you know, pools and puddles and things like that
all over the shirts and faces and so on. And
so it was definitely gory enough to warrant an R rating, but it wasn't super explicit like I thought Belko was. Yeah,
Belko was definitely on the gorier side, and obviously the violence there hit more so because of the slightly more serious tone.
Right.
You know, whereas this was more of the camped up silly factor with a lot of the violence and stuff. And I don't know, I still love seeing that girl going around with a nail gun and, you know, people getting their hands stabbed through with scissors and stuff like that. But this is, like, in the last year, the third violence in the Office film that I've seen, if we include Bloodsucking Bastards, which we also did a review for, like, way earlier this year.
Did we actually review it?
I believe we did. At least I thought we did. Maybe we didn't.
Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. I don't remember the movie at all at this point.
I liked Bloodsucking Bastards a lot. That was the one with the vampires.
If we did, we must have reviewed it. Damn, I'm going to have to check the channel.
Oh, God. And then there was also The Night Watchman, which also had vampires. Like, how many different, like, crazy and, like people going nuts. Office Place horror stuff. I mean, I was a big fan.
This year, apparently.
Yeah, no, seriously. I was a big fan of The Office. They're apparently doing a revival right now, but that's beside the point. Yeah, they're doing a revival. All those people are out of work except for Carell, so they need...
the actors are coming back?
Yeah.
Oh.
A revival series.
I'm okay.
You know how that's like the whole big thing now, these revival series.
Steve Carell, too?
I'm not sure if Carell's coming back, but there's such an extensive supporting cast there. Anyway, guys.
Ed Helms would be tough to get back at this point. But anyway,
yeah, him too.
Sidetrack.
Sorry, how can we not at least briefly mention The Office when we're doing a review about an Office brutal fest going down?
Exactly.
If only they could have done an episode of that show with this sort of scenario going down. That would have been hella funny.
So tell me, was the movie satisfying to you? I think we've said what we can say about it.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, gore was good. Music, I briefly mentioned about how I liked when they started bringing in the 80s synthy score, because that's such a... It's almost like a cliche thing at this point.
It's getting to be an overused trope.
But I still really enjoy it. Overall, though, yeah, I quite liked it. I had fun with this movie. It's not going to infiltrate this other massive list of films, especially on the indie level, that impressed the hell out of me this year. But, I mean, hey, Joe Lynch, props to you. He's a homie of Adam Green's. He's the other guy on the... What's the TV show? Holliston. Holliston, yeah. So he's his like, cohort criminalist friend on that, so... Yeah, I mean, fun, stylistically, pretty well done, and yeah, I mean, I'll obviously keep him on my radar for further stuff, but watch out for Samara Weaving, man. She's going places, this girl, seriously.
Cool.
Not just because of her beauty, she's got chops, yo.
Yeah, she's good. She's fun to watch. She is definitely fun to watch. For a couple of reasons. All right, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, I've been Jaime Fuego.
Stay tuned, because we do have coming up a review of Darren Aronofsky's Mother. So, yes, we are about to watch that.
Mother!
Hopefully it's going to be, and I know it's going to be a weird one, so.
He's a weird director, man. That's, like we said, we are catching up on so many of these reviews for you guys so that we can be properly informed when we give you the best of the year list.
Exactly. So, thanks again for watching, and remember, stay scared!